Today we're going to talk about how networked boroughs actually endure. Let me pose just a general question. If your church disappeared tomorrow, would your family still stand? If your family moved away tomorrow, would your church even notice? And if your town became openly hostile to Christianity, would anyone come to your aid? I don't mean these as purely hypothetical questions because I think that they're strategic questions that need to be considered when you're building a borough. One of the greatest weaknesses of modern Christianity is that we've learned how to stand alone. We've celebrated independence, we admire self-sufficiency, and we've convinced ourselves that if our own little household is faithful, then we've done enough. Mm-hmm. But history tells us a different story. And so today we're going to be talking about a king who is largely forgotten in the modern West outside of England, and that is King Alfred. But to understand why Alfred matters, you have to understand the world that he inherited. By the late 9th century, England was in crisis. Viking armies had invaded the country for decades, conquering kingdom after kingdom. Monasteries were being burned, churches were destroyed, and it genuinely looked like Christian England might disappear altogether. Alfred became the king in the middle of all that chaos, and at first, he fought the Vikings the same way everyone else had before him, and that was one battle at a time. But eventually, he realized that courage and military victories alone were not enough. If England was going to survive, it needed more than a king who could win battles. It needed a way of life that could withstand the next invasion. And that realization changed everything. Alfred stopped thinking only like a warrior and began to think like a builder. And I think that's exactly why this story has something to teach Christians today. And so here's the question that we're going to wrestle with today. What if Christian boroughs are simply Alfred's strategy applied to our own age? Gentlemen, how you guys doing? We are back here, batch recording.
Yeah.
Because we had some time off, and so we're knocking two out at once. But I want to say, so this is an interesting chapter. I really enjoyed writing this one, and this is the if you've got the book, or you're going to follow along or whatever. This is the chapter where we really shift into the building of the borough.
What chapter are we in?
Chapter 10.
Chapter 10.
And so this is where we shift. It's part 4 of the book into building the borough.
And this is where you got the term borough from?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah,
from this
King Alfred,
from this particular strategy.
Yeah, they were called burhs, like B-U-R-H, and so he created burhs, and we'll get into it. But basically, individual kingdoms, if you will, that supported each other. Go ahead.
Well, can I just because you just read a history, and I think that was very good.
Yeah.
Just to give context, we're talking about England, mm-hmm. which is more or less an island. Right.
Yep.
I say more or less because Scotland's connected to it and things like that. Yeah. But basically, we're talking about an island.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And in some ways, being an island is good because you have that water to protect you from invasion. It made it difficult for Hitler to invade them, for instance, in World War II. Unless, of course, you have a particular enemy that's really, really good on the water.
Yeah.
Then it can be very dangerous. Yeah. And that's when the Vikings start to invade.
Yeah,
and tell me if I'm wrong about this, and because
you're wrong.
Okay,
you would have done it to me,
but and I have.
Yeah.
But first, the Vikings just kind of show up, attack a town, loot it, maybe set part of it on fire.
Yeah.
They also go to the monasteries.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the monasteries had a lot of wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And then they leave.
And that was the religious center. So it was
and they, which meant England was very insecure because they didn't know when they'd show up next.
Correct.
But then they stopped showing up and leaving. They showed up and stayed.
Mm-hmm.
And they started taking over sections of England.
Yeah.
And in particular, the Danes start to conquer large parts of England.
And we got to understand, the Danes were Vikings.
The Danes were Vikings.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So we're not talking about Christian conquering. We're talking about believing the gods praise them for dying by the sword.
Now, in the future, those areas that we think of as where the Vikings were, eventually those places would be converted to Christianity and would become Lutheran.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that at this point is still in the future.
Yeah.
And the Vikings are a very warlike people. And they farm part of the year and they go raid other towns part of the year.
It's going to be 800 years before they become Lutherans.
Right.
At this point.
So there are no Lutherans at this point.
Luther's not even around.
Luther's hasn't been born yet.
That's the 1500s.
And so they're attacking, and you could end up with a situation with a completely paganized England. But then this King Alfred, and he's a king of a section of England.
Yeah.
And so he has to start to think of
Wessex.
Of Wessex. Google it. Okay. And he's what you're saying is he's developing a strategy because the Danes are conquering different places.
Yes.
And so the strategies that those other people tried didn't work. The Vikings were able to take over their sections. And so Alfred is having to think, we've got to do things differently.
Yeah.
And so he comes up with this idea that you are going to explain.
Yeah. So
it's
basically,
be different.
He built these like fortified network of towns, okay, within like a day's ride of each other. So for us, if we were thinking about it that way, it actually really expands how big a borough can be. Like, you know, a lot of times you hear borough and you're thinking, oh, like neighborhood, right? But it could be 2 or 3 hours away and still be technically part of a borough. And so what it was fortified towns. So that way, if, for instance, one of these burrs got attacked, they could send a signal to the next closest burr and they would come and help. And so instead of being isolated, they had the ability to be connected and you know, sheer numbers.
So I want to get this clear because if we don't get the imagery, I think what you're going to say is not going to be as clear.
Okay.
So you have a fortified area.
Yeah.
Some people live within the fortified area. Some people, especially like farmers,
outside,
are going to live outside of it. But if someone comes to attack you, you can then, because you live close to this fortification, you can run into the fortification.
Yeah, which we talked a little bit about last time, right? Like everybody had to go to that central place
area
behind the gates and the walls.
The most common way they would win would be by encroaching around a fortified city and starving them.
Well, now, and this idea of having a fortification everybody runs to, this is not new. People have been doing that part for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
In fact, that's the context of Jesus telling his people when he's talking about
when you hear wars and rumors.
When you hear wars and rumors of wars, go to the mountains. In other words, what he's saying is don't do what you would normally do because what you're going to want to do is run into Jerusalem behind the fortifications.
Right.
That's a bad idea.
Right.
Okay. So this is so what was new about this strategy that he was developing?
The new thing is connecting to other burrs.
So you had fortified cities close,
and they created roads. They created like ways to get there quickly. They shared, weapons. They shared, the other thing that he did was, and if you don't know anything about King Alfred and you want to learn more about him, there's a book called White Horse King by Ben Merkel. That's a great historical context that teaches you a lot about Alfred. But basically, he created this system where they had like economic interests with each other. They, would help each other like build weapons. And so that way, they kind of looked at it as like, we're all Britons, right? So we're the same people, even if we don't live in the same town, even if we're, 4-hour ride away or whatever, you're not a Viking, right? And so when the Vikings came, they helped each other out. And so the premise that I'm trying to make here is that boroughs can actually be connected to each other. So we talked about last episode, we talked about how individual households are isolated, and the borough actually creates a way to make sure that the individual households aren't isolated. Well, what I'm talking about now is even like individual boroughs being connected to other boroughs. And so, I appreciate the historical context there. But it wasn't just the one thing that I want to point out is it wasn't just like military things that they were doing. They were creating markets. There's economic. They had the churches, and they would have like, we think of itinerant pastors that would travel. They would have like, people that would go from borough to borough and preach and teach. It was education. He brought like Latin in. Latin was gone from this point. This is 400 years after Rome fell. he brought all of like the Roman knowledge back into Britain, which is how Britain became like a
next Rome.
Yeah, exactly, the next Rome. And so
in a positive, you mean that
in a good way, right, yeah. But he created laws for the different burrs,
and it's almost like his own Pax Romanus, because you had roads that were regulated between these burrs, and if you messed with one burr,
exactly,
you messed with all the burrs,
which is exactly what they did in Rome. Like you had the via, they would have these. I mean, in fact, some of the Roman roads are still there. Like you can actually walk on them. But it made it safe to travel along them, because prior to that, you would get like, robbed and things like that. And so, once Alfred created these burrs, like you had protection along the way.
And the laws, though, they were uniform laws.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah,
so the law in one burr is and that was important for trade
and not taking advantage of people. Right. You're exactly right. So like you couldn't go and trade in a different town and get a discount and come over here to this burr and sell it and try to like use arbitrage to like make money off of the other burr. It made it equal, and it made it, it actually helped them prosper too. So not only were they able to fend off the Vikings, they were able to prosper because of the burr strategy. And so what I think he did that's really interesting is it wasn't just building fortresses. He was building like a cohesive organism that helped protect them and thrive.
And I want to say this: people listening to the podcast are probably going, "Why are we spending
this much time,
all this time, talking about history?"
Because history's awesome.
History is awesome, and just I know it's dorky, but it's his story.
Yeah,
and we've got to learn from it. And I just give some Bible. Ecclesiastes 4:12 puts it this way. And though a man might prevail against one who is alone, two will withstand him. A threefold cord will not quickly be broken.
Right.
And that's what we're talking about, building three cord that cannot be broken.
Yeah. Strength in numbers.
Strength in the numbers.
Yeah. And so we tend to, we've talked about this in the past, but, in the United States especially, we're very individualistic. And we actually take pride in that, but when we, as Christians, think individualistic, number one, we cut ourselves off from the church historically, which I think is a problem. But also we mistake isolation for faithfulness. And in reality, faithfulness would be connecting to the other faithful churches around.
Well, and that's the example given by Paul's epistles. He would write the epistle and he would say in several of his epistles, share it with so-and-so.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have the canon of Scripture had the church not shared the Scripture with one another. And we were never meant, I mean, yes, God did implement local ecclesias during this time, but God never meant for those local ecclesias to be disconnected from one another the way they are nowadays. And it's not healthy.
Yeah, I mean, we outsource education, we outsource our culture, we outsource our economics. And so ultimately, I think that his strategy can be one that we can learn from. And that's why this chapter was the first chapter in the building section, because I want us to think more than just the historical military, part of it. Scripture warns us, as you said, from against standing alone.
And so let me put this.
Yeah.
What we are saying is this, and correct me if I'm wrong on this.
Okay.
We're saying that individual churches need to be burrs that are interconnected with other churches and other groups.
You could certainly say it that way. I'm thinking even bigger than that, because I'm thinking individual churches create a borough, right? A good. We talked about last time what type of church can anchor a borough.
When we talk about borough, we're talking about developing economically, educationally, culturally, and that
all of life.
Yeah, because we're not just, we got to train our children.
Yep.
And we need to make sure our grandchildren are well trained.
Exactly.
And so there's institutions that need to be built by the church for God's people, so that we are renewing their mind and teaching them a Christian worldview. And so we're raised. So you're talking about all that, but you're talking about not just being alone by a borough, but even a church having several boroughs that are together.
Yes. Yeah.
And even partnering with other churches that also have boroughs.
100%. And we've talked about that just locally. Like, we have a bunch of good Reformed churches here. But earlier we were looking at the schedule on that conference, right? Or going to that conference. And like, when you zoom out even more, we have within
Thousands.
a 3-hour radius of here, we've got, 30 at least churches that are very like-minded.
I was saying thousands of believers, but yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
30, at least 30 churches.
Yeah, that are like,
there's 9 Reformed churches in Marion County, Florida, which is abnormal. And I'm friends with all those pastors. We do a church camp together, the camp we just did.
Yeah.
They participate in, we do conferences together. We have the foundation that if Grace Point built out a borough generationally and other churches did it, we could have that in Marion County.
The challenge is, and this is the challenge that will always inevitably be one that we'll have to face here in the day and age we're in. We talked about last time the stalled churches, right? We might be of the same mind theologically, but is the vision for a borough there? And so, and I don't know these guys. You know them better than I do. But like, we've got to cast the vision for what the borough is, and that's what we're doing with this podcast too, right? Like, that's part of what we're doing here.
I think one of the things, though, one of the problems we might have, this history stuff might be a little bit too nerdy for some people.
Sure.
So let's talk about Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. We did put it in here.
You have a Lord. Yeah.
Gondor.
Somebody's going to get the ring.
Gondor.
Somebody's going to Gondor.
No, it's the lighting the beacons.
Yeah.
You want to talk about it?
Oh,
yeah.
Or you want me to?
Yeah. So
go ahead.
So if you're not familiar with Lord of the Rings, let me go and explain it detail by detail.
Yes.
For the next
there you go.
4 hours.
Pack up. Hang on.
No, but there's a particular place called Gondor that's in some very significant danger.
Yes.
Right? And they light a beacon that is big enough and it's close enough to another area that is not necessarily does not have the best relationship with Gondor.
Right.
But Rohan sees it.
Yeah.
And the king of Rohan says, Rohan will answer.
Uh-huh.
And they go and help.
Yep.
And that's the
and
idea.
They light the beacon.
Yeah,
and you see, and this, I think, was it Peter Jackson? Is that who did
the
Lord of the
director?
Rings?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And and J.R.R. Tolkien has this in the book too, so it's not just like Peter Jackson made it up.
Yeah.
But he does a really good job of visually showing that. Like, you see, Gondor lights the beacon, and then the next beacon gets lit, and then the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and they end up winning the battle because all of these people have come in to defeat the orcs.
There's an interesting part of Florida history I just now remembered. I don't have all the details. I have to look it up. I learned about it from your dad. In the early days of Christian education in the state of Florida went after some Christian schools saying they weren't legal and threatened to arrest pastors. What happened was, and this went all the way...
That was in the 90s, I believe.
It was in the 90s. This went all the way to the high court in Florida, and we won, praise God. But what happened is one pastor would show up, they would threaten to arrest him. Next pastor would say, well, then I'll run it. And then after that, they'd say, hey, there's an unlimited amount of pastor and faithful men here. You're going to have to arrest us all. And when people stand together like that,
right.
And that's the borough, except for on a larger amount. What would happen if churches built the schools, built the economies, kept the money in the kingdom? Listen, I'd much rather my money go to an HVAC guy who's giving and working in his church.
Yep.
And that way we're building the kingdom, we're expanding our reach, we're expanding our influence. And then what happens if the state of Florida all of a sudden came up one day and said, okay, you know what? We know we've allowed you to have your Christian schools, but from now on, you have to hire homosexuals.
Yeah.
You have to, and we say no. If enough Christian schools stand up, you cannot govern those who do not wish to be governed.
But that's essentially what happened, right? Because
that is what happened in Florida. Yep.
If you were to think of a state that is very pro religion and freedom of education and freedom of Christian education, Florida would be at the top.
Yep.
And now, right? But that's because of work that Christians did, and you would need to join together to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so that's a good example of what we're talking about.
That's I'm getting pumped thinking about it, because ultimately that's exactly what we're saying. And so, I mean, think about it this way. Let's say you got 30 families who are of the same mind. They're teaching their kids in the Christian school or in their homeschool or like whatever. You've got apprenticeships. Well, inevitably, you're also going to have some people who are going to go, you know what? I don't like this law. I really don't want to do politics, but I'm going to run for this office because somebody needs to be a Christian, and they're running a Christian. And then you have people who start supporting that, and then you've got the churches backing that. And so inevitably you can start making policy differences, like we're now talking about, changes that have been made as a result of people connecting and supporting each other.
Just the rubber on the road. If the churches in Marion County were faithful enough to put men up, and by the way, Marion County is a very churched county compared to most. Yeah. If they were faithful enough to be involved, the entire county seat and county board would be Christians.
Yeah.
Next time a strip club wanted to open up in Marion County, they'd be like, no.
Yep.
We don't have to.
Yep.
We vote no. We don't have to give an explanation.
Yeah.
We would be able, do you want that for your grandkids, or do you want a society? And so many Christians have this mentality. It's like, oh, that's not our problem.
Yeah.
We're going to be raptured out of here anyway.
Right.
But that's...
Well, what's that called?
I'm not saying it because he's starting to get drunk.
He already started snickering.
He's starting to get drunk over there.
Shut up.
Drunk on water.
Yeah.
Your coffee
is like my empty coffee
cup.
cup.
Empty coffee cup, yeah.
But like that, and maybe this is a little bit different than we're talking about. I don't think it's that different.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of that changed when groups of Christians, and maybe even groups that didn't always agree on everything, but showed up, and this is like in the early 2000s, and there'd been these kind of rules about Christian education for a while in Florida, and show up to Jeb Bush and say, hey, do you like that evangelical vote? Because if your administration is going to keep doing what previous administrations have done, maybe that evangelical vote goes away.
Yeah.
So maybe you want to change some stuff.
They tried to pass laws because churches, they did pass a law because churches were doing that. And so everybody thinks churches have always been, it's always been against the law for a 501c3 church to speak. That did not start until the 70s. That's a relatively...
I'm sorry, wait, what are you referring to?
The IRS, the threat of losing exemption if a church talks about politics or pushes politics. So that started in the 70s. That was not initially in the law. They added it because the church was threatening the liberals. What we should have never cowed down. We should have said, okay, come take it.
Well, people have been many churches didn't stop that.
Yeah.
Like black churches have been having politicians in forever.
Yeah.
Bill Clinton was going around in Arkansas speaking in churches when he was running for governor and everything like that. So, unfortunately, those types of laws were only getting applied one direction.
Yes.
Unfortunately,
yeah.
And the church needs to say, hey, we are good citizens. We follow the law, but our king is Christ.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking it.
There's a really good example in the Bible for this too in Nehemiah. So, the people are rebuilding the walls. They've come back from Babylon, right? And they're rebuilding the walls. But the work was too large for, everyone to remain in one place. And so when you look at Nehemiah chapter 4, verses 19 and 20, it says, "And I said to the nobles and the officials and to the rest of the people, the work is great and widely spread, and we are separated on the wall, far from one another. In the place where you hear the sound of the trumpet, rally to us there. Our God will fight for us."
Amen.
And so they're rebuilding the temple and the walls and everything. And ultimately they've got a lot of pushback, people trying to stop that from happening. And so that's where you get the sword and the trowel, they're working, but they also having to defend each other. And so then they've got the trumpet to connect each other. And so this is actually a pattern that is biblical, and it's really old. It's not like it's something that's new. We just, for whatever reason, you lose it for generations, and it has to be brought back.
Yeah. And
so what I'm encouraging us to do is bring that back.
Amen. And the church, how many brides does Christ have?
One.
And so when our brothers and sisters, I know for a fact there's a sister church of ours who's very close to us, who's financially in straits right now, and they've been talking about wanting a Christian school for years.
Yeah.
And so now we're launching one. Hopefully, Lord willing, laws have changed. We'll be able to launch it. I think that, and I was going to talk to you guys about. We'll talk about it on here.
Yeah.
I think
My answer is no.
I think it's part of our duty to say, hey, we'll help you buy your first curriculum if you don't have the money to buy it.
Oh yeah, cool.
Because I want to see Christian schools all over Marion County.
Yeah.
Because the more Christian schools are in Marion County, the more children are going to be raised up with a Christian worldview and understanding of history, politics, economics, science, mathematics, English, literature. The more likely my grandchildren are going to have good leaders in the county seat.
Can I throw something out here?
Yeah.
And if you don't want to run it down right here, just move right on. But
let's move on.
I got to stop saying that because I know what's coming as soon as I do that. This is also why people need to take tithing seriously. I don't think, we don't talk about it a lot. And I think most churches either talk about it all the time or they don't talk about it a lot. One of the two. But like, there's a reason that God instituted the tithe, in the Old Testament, and it was to support the church. And so like here you're talking about a church who wants to be faithful, wants to have the vision, they want to build it, and they don't even have the money to buy the curriculum.
Yeah.
And how many people are sitting there in their church who are investing in Netflix? They're building Netflix's kingdom. They're building all these kingdoms in the city of man.
I didn't even think
and they're
about
not
that,
building the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
So like tithing is, I understand that there have been churches and there have been people who used the church's money in ways that they shouldn't have. But like, man, you got to be faithful. That you can't build without any money.
And a faithful church is they show the budget to the church.
Yes.
Okay.
They show where
they
not
show
only
where
the budget,
it's going,
where it's going.
Yeah. With that being said, I think the previous generation of baby boomers would give simply because they felt it was their duty.
Mm-hmm.
We need the new generation to learn that.
Yeah.
The new generation gives only when they feel an emotional attachment to something.
Right.
And so if you need the emotional attachment, just think what I'm investing now will matter 100 years from now.
Amen.
Is the church going to be standing?
Well, and I think what you're talking about there, though, like the example that you're giving is perfect, because it's like if we're building a borough and a church is hurting, the churches in the borough or the surrounding boroughs or the burrs are going to respond. Or if a school is struggling, the other boroughs are going to help. And even preaching, like I know that you guys have sent pastors to help preach it.
Yeah.
Places
Oh, yeah.
when
We fill each other's pulpit.
Yeah.
And here's something I've even thought about, because we're one of the early Reformed guys in Marion County in education.
Right.
I'm praying that one day we have the ability to train teachers.
Yeah.
For Marion County.
Or like teacher schools. Don't they have like teacher schools?
Schools
like
for
that?
teachers. Yeah. And we found one online that's solid Christian that we're going to be probably partnering with some of our teachers locally.
Cool.
But with that being said, I look to the day when we are training teachers, mechanics, plumbers, all these things.
The challenge is like, this is where a burr can fall flat too, is if you don't, you can't do everything.
No.
And so you've got to find
dreaming.
out like what I know, right.
Yeah.
And that's where you need somebody to kind of bring it back. But like ultimately you do have to find out like, what are the things that you're really good at? Where can you lean into the skill sets that you have? What can you build? And who can you invest in? Who can help you when you help them? And so
what you're saying is sometimes we need help.
Yeah.
Just like Sam helped Frodo take the One Ring
there you go.
to Mount Doom.
There you go.
Yeah.
This was actually just a way for us to talk about Lord of the Rings.
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, I'm just glad we're not talking about Power Rangers right now.
I couldn't get in that
You
conversation.
get on
I
Power
can
Rangers,
talk
Robbie.
I can talk some Lord of the Rings, but
Robbie loves those Power Rangers.
But just the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, not the
lame
the various
later
new
ones.
versions. Yeah.
The Dino Rangers.
Yeah.
Dino Rangers. That's not a thing, is it?
It is, isn't it?
Well, we're getting way off.
Yeah.
We're getting no. This
for the paid.
This is a Lord of the Rings themed episode.
Oh,
we're
okay,
not gonna get
you have on there family in crisis.
Yeah.
That's local in the borough.
Yeah.
But that grows even if the church is growing economically.
Yeah.
And it's building men who are building family economics and businesses.
Yeah.
Then when you have that struggling widow.
Yeah.
We talked about it. It's a mistake for us to expect a deal because it's a Christian. We shouldn't do that to each other.
No, right.
But at the same time, if you have a brother who is a plumber and you have a widow who's having issues, the church can say, hey, we're willing to foot the bill. And more than likely, if that brother's faithful, he'll be like, well, here's my cost, or, work something out to help that widow out.
Mm-hmm.
And that we really are incapable of truly helping families in crisis because churches have become so hyper individualized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. You're exactly right. Well, I don't have anything else on that. I really just wanted to set up the conversation for the next couple chapters where we start talking about like what the mechanics of a burrow looks like.
Yeah.
And I'm actually gonna pull some of the stuff from the appendix for the next episodes because
you don't have a reading for this episode. You didn't read anything.
What do you mean?
You usually read from your book in every episode.
Oh, I put a lot of it in here.
Okay.
But I could find something.
That's okay.
No.
We can close.
Just give me a minute. No. So one of the things that we talked about just on the marching orders, kind of rounding out the episode, who is in your network, right? Like when you think about your borough, your community, who are the people that are building? Who can you call at 2 a.m.? Robbie doesn't have anybody. He feels bad. He said he can't call anybody.
I called
at 2 a.m.
Robbie at 2 a.m. last year when the van broke down.
It was pretty close. Now it was
really?
like 1 something. Yeah.
And you actually answered him.
I was
He was out cold.
I was
answered.
no. Actually, no, I remember this. I was watching the Frasier revival. I'm a nerd. I was watching the Frasier revival series on Paramount Plus. I don't know why.
2 a.m.
I don't know why I was up that late. I don't know for that. I'm never up that late.
Yeah.
That was just a really weird
coincidence
night that I happened to be up that night.
God knew I needed you to come
yes,
rescue
I guess
me.
so. Because
why were you out at 2 a.m. in the van?
So our volleyball girls went and played all the way down at Space Coast.
Oh.
And they were on their way back, and the engine blew up on the school van. And so I had a van full of a bunch of teenage girls. And so the coach calls me freaking out. I said, don't worry about it. I'll be there. Showed up with my minivan, and they illegally filled my minivan, those teenage girls.
No, now I remember. It wasn't that late originally. It was like between 11 and 12,
When
and I was about to go to bed, and you called me, and you're like, "Hey, I may need you to come pick me up."
So I called,
and so because I have to go pick these people up, but I don't know if I'm going to have a way to get back.
So I give them my van. They go home. I call AAA. They're like, "We'll be there in an hour." I sat there from 11 to about 2 a.m. and finally gave up because I finally called and said, "You were supposed to be here." They're like, "Oh yeah. The truck canceled on you."
What?
And
I was like, "What?"
And that's
they
why,
didn't tell me.
That's why I was watching shows because I was trying to keep
Stay
myself
awake.
awake because I hadn't
gotcha.
heard back. I hadn't heard back from him yet.
So then you had to go pick him up because they canceled the truck on you.
Yeah, it was like 2-hour drive too. Or no, it wasn't quite.
It wasn't
that.
quite.
Like an hour
it was
30.
Yeah, it was a pretty good drive, especially for like 1:30 in the morning.
Didn't break down closer to Space Coast. They were a lot closer to home. But I mean, yes, I've called him at 2.
Yeah, I have been there for you at 2 in the
go.
morning. That actually did happen. Yeah.
And so now you got to be there for him.
There we go.
Yeah. No, I mean, one of the things that you can do right now is in preparation for when that happens is start building connections with the people in your church. How many times do you have to say, shake somebody's hand, talk to your people, go to lunch with them?
Yeah.
Like,
and we shouldn't have to say it, but I feel like I have to say it.
Yeah.
And I have to honestly say, like I said last episode, 10 years ago, Kathy and Gary were the only ones I probably could call outside my family.
Yeah.
Nowadays, there's a bunch of men, not even men that are in lower areas of leadership in our church, I think would show up for any of us at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And I rejoice in that. And that's the type of brotherhood you should have.
Yeah.
But churches even, I've got pastors of other churches I can call probably at 2 a.m.
Well, and that's where, when we talk about Alfred's strategy of the different connected places, you should have people on the Space Coast that you're connected to that you can call and say, hey, listen, we just had, this breakdown. Like we should honestly be that connected where you have people within a couple hours either way.
And see,
we want to get to that point.
Yeah. When we say like-minded, and we're not getting back to the triage.
Yeah.
But there's going to be like-minded people on the edge of
certainly
that we should have that relationship.
Certainly.
We want to see our borough succeed as well.
Yeah, we may not necessarily attend the same church
Yes.
as them, but they love the Lord. They're seeking to build in their own way. We might have some denominational differences or whatever, but but they're still brothers and sisters in Christ,
and that's how it should be.
Yeah.
Would you say, like, go back to the King Alfred imagery, like each bro would probably have some slight differences?
Oh, for sure.
From the next one,
For sure.
They're gonna develop their own like character and traditions and things like that.
Well, and it might be based on like where they're at. Like if you're on the beach, you've got a different place than
Right.
Central Florida, right?
Right.
So you have different culture.
But you are united in these important things.
Yeah.
And you are there for each other.
Absolutely.
And so we don't want to let small things get in the way of working together.
Yeah. And I think we have a tendency to do that far too much. And that's part of why we started, instituting the creed, is to like anchor ourselves in the church, the historical church. And like, we believe the same thing. We might have some second tier issues. You mentioned the triage, right? Theological triage. We might have some second tier issues that would make it to where we wouldn't attend the same church. But then there's like third level stuff that's like, that isn't
Who cares?
Yeah, who cares? Like we have a different understanding of eschatology or whatever.
That's the big one.
That is probably like one of those things that we could probably pick 5 people in our church right now who have different eschatologies, and you still attend the same church. So, so start strengthening your connections. Start thinking about this. Like,
can I say this pastorally to the listeners? In your church, find a man that you don't know well, and I'm going to challenge you to try to have a lunch with that person by the end of this month. Just do it.
That's tomorrow.
Oh, it's the end. By the end of next month. That's Sunday. Sunday
by
is
the
the
time
first
this
Sunday
comes out, though, it'll be like
I'm just saying,
within a month.
Find a family, connect, and then don't stop there.
Yeah,
find another family, connect, and that's how the borough is built.
And so I'm going to issue a challenge to us, the 3 of us sitting here. We got to start thinking regionally, right? We're very focused on how we can serve our people, and we should. That is what we've been, the responsibility that we've been given. But we've got to also start asking, like, how can we strengthen
fellow churches,
the fellow churches, like the bonds with those fellow churches. And so, if we can think 2 hours south, 2 hours, well, can't really go 2 hours west.
There's a new fellowship like ours breaking out in Orlando.
Yeah.
And so we actually kind of have that.
Yeah.
Every month I meet. The problem is you guys are.
I was going to say, how much do their people know me, and how much do they?
That's the thing.
Well, we have real jobs.
All the
well, you have a real job.
This has actually come up at our meeting because all the preaching elders who are
actually
paid
gets to count that as work.
Yeah. He gets to go hang out with his friends.
Yeah. All the preaching elders that meet together have become good friends, and we have said before we need to get our other elders involved in things. And I think that's where these conferences come in. You guys get to know them somewhat at these conferences. But even then, I think next time we host a conference, I think we need to have an elder hangout.
Yeah.
Like just where the elders get together, smoke a cigar.
Yeah.
I remember, this has been a number of years back, but I remember Eric did like a fish fry or something. It wasn't fish, it was something else.
It was actually Mike hosted it at Olivet.
Oh, that's right.
Eric fried the crawfish.
Okay, that's right. Yeah.
Were you there?
Yeah, I was there.
Oh my soul. It was like what? 6 tables? 6-foot long tables covered with newspaper with crawfish about this high. Poured out. Oh, so
and
good.
The potatoes and the corn and the whole
potatoes.
But what I'm saying is we could do more stuff like that.
Not only could we should. We should. Like that's how we build those connections for our people too. Like think about if we can build connections. For instance, if you got 2 daughters who are going to be growing up in the church and you homeschool them and they're involved in, youth group
as a random example,
we got to marry them off.
How do they meet people? Right, exactly. So like we need to be strengthening the connections with the folks around us.
So are you saying we're starting a dating app at Grace Point?
Didn't want to announce it here, but
dustandglory.com/single Christian.
we got to be thinking about building for our grandchildren and for their children. Like, Psalms talks about 3 generations, right? And so, in With Fire in Our Bones, I talked about, or the man that wrote that book talked about 100-year vision. And so, like, what is our 100-year vision for the Grace Point borough? So lots of challenges out there. Get the book. There's lots of good stuff in there. We cover maybe 10% of it every episode. And we might even not cover any of it.
Yeah, because we end up talking about things that apply to that chapter.
Right.
I really seriously recommend reading this book.
Yeah.
It is an excellent book. And here's the thing. You might not agree with everything in the book.
You won't.
Especially towards the end.
Or the next chapter after.
Yeah, I was about to say, just wait till the next episode.
The next chapter, you might not agree with.
But you'll agree with some of it.
Yeah.
And
or hopefully at least you'll see directionally what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, even like when I read the book, it's like me and you were very like-minded on it. But I'm like, there's a few times I'm like, I don't know if I'd have worded it this harsh.
Yeah.
But
you wouldn't have.
I agree with it.
Yeah.
I do agree with it. So
we'll find out what Robbie thinks.
We will. All I'll say is that a lot what we're talking about here is unity.
Yeah.
And unity is...
But unity around what?
Around
Christ.
Shared vision.
Yeah. But I mean, like, ultimately, we're saying unity around Christ.
You have something to unify around.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
But all I was going to say is that unity is precious, just like the One Ring was precious to Gollum. My precious.
He literally had to stretch that really big just to get that reference in there. But you did it. Congratulations.
Yep.
Congratulations. All hearts and minds clear?
All hearts and minds clear.
Amen.
If I've been more quiet this episode, it's just because I'm trying to work in Lord of the Rings references.
All hearts and minds were not clear.
Yeah.
No, they were not clear. Now are they clear?
Yes, they're clear now.